Oh no! There's a fire on Sodor! As the island's only helicopter, I'd be perfect to put it out. But unfortunately for the purposes of this playset, I'm tethered to the rescue center. We'll have to call Thomas the tank engine. Thomas, you're needed to extinguish a fire. Please head to the search and rescue center to get the equipment you need. Yes, sir. Of course, sir. Right away, sir. What a fantastically convenient cargo car that's magically been coupled behind me. I'm sure to save the day now. And Thomas, I've got the perfect cargo just for you. Alrighty, Harold, load me up. Harold, what exactly is that thing? No time for questions, Thomas, the fire is spreading, you must go. Okay then, here goes. Hurrah! The fire's out! Wait a second. I had to puff through the fire before the fire wagon. I could have been seriously hurt. Anyone? Anyone? That's it. I'm going on strike. Hi YouTube, XtremeTrainz here. So, I've just come back from a month of being in the United States / Mexico. And I made a lot of effort to visit as many toy stores and toy sections as I could to check out the new Thomas stuff. Now, in the places I had a chance to visit, I was actually a little bit disappointed by some of the lack of range or exciting different things that I found. But I did pick up a few items. One of those will be the infamous Thomas Wood. Oh my god! We're going to talk about that in another video. This video is actually something which I found when I came back home and I went to an independent toy store. Well, it's a chain of toy stores, but they're small and they're specialty toy stores called Casey's Toys in Australia. And when I was just wandering through to see what the new stock was, I saw this item here. Now, you might have worked out what it is yet, and you might not have, but this here is the Thomas & Friends Motorised Railway Sodor Search and Rescue Set, which from my looking online is a set from 2014 that I've never seen before and was discounted from $50 down to $25. So, I'm super curious to have a look at this set. I haven't seen any of this stuff in Australia. It has never been sold in Australia, and I don't think it's supposed to be. So I have no idea how it ended up on an Australian toy store shelf. But regardless, I'm super excited to pick it up and review this for you because it's something brand new and exciting to show you in 2018. So, what are we waiting for? Let's check it out. Quickly, I want to look at the packaging because you don't see this stuff in Australia or in most Western countries very often. So, what can we see? It's very reminiscent of the way Trackmaster is packaged, particularly the older Trackmaster rather than the new Trackmaster. You can see you've got the contents here, noting that there's another language written on here. I'm not sure what it is. I think it's probably Chinese, but don't quote me on that. If someone can tell me what it is, that'd be great. I don't think it's Japanese, but it could be one of the Chinese scripts. I'm not sure. You can see we've got Thomas here, we've got the little blister package of Thomas and Harold in there. Come around the side, very, very reminiscent of the way Trackmaster is packaged. This back presentation is the same kind of thing. And you can see that, you know, here's that world you're building here, Fisher-Price. What's curious about this is it has adapters to connect to Trackmaster. Now, noting this is a Trackmaster 1 or Trackmaster Original, Trackmaster Classic style of adapter, because this was from 2014, which was still in the last couple of dying waves of the original Trackmaster sets. You can see that's what it looks like on the back. The other side is the same, got more contents of the pieces. And then we've got some stuff here. Noting that there's no label for Thomas Australia or Mattel Australia. Usually, the labels for stuff that's meant to be sold in Australia has a little logo saying, you know, like Australia, the US, rah. This one only has the Asian ones, which to me indicates this is something which is from an Asian location, and we know that's true because that's where these things are sold. So, interesting material. So here are all the parts of the set. Now, on the box, it did say that some things may look different to how they appear on the packaging. which I think is something they don't normally say on these kind of sets. However, interestingly enough, on the box, this wagon is green, and here it's brown. So there's definitely some variation going on, which I think is really curious. So you can see you've got multiple pieces of track kind of sitting around here. It does actually interestingly remind me of Trackmaster 2, but it's definitely smaller. You've got all the extra little fun parts in here, and of course the most important part, the Thomas. Now, the switches go the other way in these for some reason. As you can see, that's off, and this is on. So I don't really know what's going on there. They're a smaller size than the Trackmaster. I'll get a comparison out once I've actually built up the set. They don't freewheel, and then as you can see, this wheel doesn't move. This wheel does. He's quite tall and thin. He's got a really loose coupler. Like, this feels like a very cheap kind of coupler. The face is a bit weird. His eyes, the face is fine, but the eyes are kind of looking the wrong way, I think, or they're not quite looking the same. Like, this one's looking straight ahead, this one's looking up, so he looks a little bit creepy there. Otherwise, it's about the same level of detail you'd expect on a normal Thomas toy. Nothing here, but we've got two big stickers here. You can see because Search and Rescue, he's got those detailing on the side. We've got some traction tires and a screw so we can put the battery in. So that's what he looks like. Harold is similar. No detailing on the windows. There's just this print along the side. Here's where he plugs into the little base thing. Yeah, again, quite cheap feeling. This wagon too. As you can see, this is reminding me of some of the knockoff stuff I've seen in like Leo Can videos, and again, very, very, like, this is very flimsy. These are, there you go, I just pulled it out. So, I don't know, to me this feels like a glorified knockoff. I don't know. She doesn't quite have the feel, even Trackmaster 2, you know, obviously we know it's not novel, it's a very premium feeling. But okay, so I built up the set, and you get a decent sized set, as you can see, from the parts that came in that box. Now, very quickly, I've pulled out my Trackmaster 2 Thomas. As you can see, this is a snowy one, which I did put paint on, texture on the buffers, and looks so good. Doing a comparison for size, you can see that the Trackmaster 2 Thomas is much longer and wider, but this one's actually a little bit taller. Now, the interesting thing is, this Trackmaster Thomas can actually fit, I don't have any batteries in him, so he's not going to run, but he does actually fit around these tracks. And that's because, if we just do a bit of a comparison, the tracks are actually very, very similar. It's just that this is a little bit thicker, a bit stronger, a bit more, you know, sturdy. Obviously the rails are taller and there's more grip. But essentially they are very, very similar. And I have to say, the similarities in a lot of the design choices that have been made, for example, the way these use a common shell for all the different engines, in the same way the Trackmaster 2 does, the really cheap kind of rolling stock, and the way this set plays out as well, makes me really think that this was almost a test for what came to be known as Trackmaster 2. So I think this is something really interesting, really cool to look at. Very quickly, this is what the adapter looks like. You only get one, which is a bit different. Normally you get two adapters in sets. This time you only get one. And it's this weird browny orange color. Cool, alright. Don't need you in here anymore. You can see this is what you end up getting from the set. So you get this little sign here. Obviously these are all stickers you have to put on. You get the fire piece, which is going to work much like most of the stuff in Trackmaster 2 does. You get the shed. And then you get this assembly which comes together, which has Harold, Sodor Research and Rescue Center, this little thing. Alright, so turning him on, you can see that he really doesn't have a lot of grunt to him. Again, noting that you put the switch back to make him go on. It doesn't take much for me to just stop that. Like, there's very little power in this engine, and there's also not a lot of speed. Here, let's just take a look, eh? Obviously, I'm starting to play out the set, but he's not very fast, particularly compared to the new Trackmaster 2 engines. So, from the way this is supposed to play out, from what I understood from the instructions, let's have a go. So, Thomas is meant to start kind of here. Gotta couple him up. This coupling system is very awkward. Because everything is so soft, it's actually quite difficult to get him to do that. There we go. Alright, so coupled up. I'm trying to get into a spot where we can actually see the entire kind of thing happen. Whether it actually happens will be interesting. Alright, so gonna just give this a crack. fail. And the fire didn't come down either. Interesting. Okay, let's try that again. There we go, second time's a charm. Yay, knocks down the fire, and the day is saved. So now I understand that the fire actually only knocks down when you have this water spraying cargo piece loaded up, which is actually kind of cool, I have to say. I do appreciate that. And now we're just going to see him do this last little, little thing that he does. Goes around on the secondary track. Boom! Comes through the shed doors, which then close behind him. Yay! Thomas saves the day. Alright, I'm going to do this a couple more times for a couple more angles so you can get a good look at how this set. In case it wasn't clear, this is obviously not a self-resetting toy. Like, you have to do this to move Harold back, and he kind of clicks in there, and obviously then seal this off Thomas and hook it back on here to make this part of the mechanism work. So it is one of those sets where you do have to kind of reset it every time, which I think is fine for play, as unlike, there you go, it works again, unlike a lot of other sets, particularly Trackmaster 2 sets, you can keep using this even if it's not reset. Like, for example, Thomas can still shove through here and there's no problems. None of the parts clash, and I think particularly there's none of that track which, for example, moves so that it's not in the way. So you can just play this around without using the play features, which I think is probably the way this should go, rather than some of the newest Trackmaster 2 sets, which if you don't reset them, the play just actually stops. Thomas can't keep chugging around because he'll derail or something. Alright, so we've seen how this plays. What do I think? Alright, so this to me is a very Thomas oddity, and I'm glad I picked it up because I like looking at weird things on my channel, as you know, and I like collecting and having some weird Thomas stuff in my collection. But this one is definitely odd. I think it is definitely a cheaper version of Thomas, and that's probably one of the reasons why we don't see it in the West. And I think it is something which, unlike, for example, a lot of the Japanese Thomases, which are very high quality, high detailed, this is something which I really don't think a lot of people are going to be super keen to collect. That said, the actual set as it is plays pretty well. You get, there's a couple of different things you can do. It's the play function, doesn't always work, but when it does work, it works quite well. It does what it says on the tin, and you actually do get a fair amount of track. And also you get like the whole 2 loops thing, which I always think is a good thing to have, so you have some options. I don't rate the rolling stock. This kind of rolling stock is very forgettable. It's not very realistic. It doesn't look like anything you've seen in the show. This thing is also something which we've never seen in the show. So in terms of like value as a thing, it's not super good. The Thomas itself is okay, but he doesn't have a lot of speed or pulling power. So I don't know how he'd go with any more than 1 or 2 wagons. And the track and the quality of all the components is just not that high. Like, I just don't think many of these things would survive being stepped on or being a bit roughly played with. They're probably just going to break, which I think for real Thomas toys is probably not good enough and just makes this set a little bit weird. So for $25 Australian, this is pretty decent. You would not get a Trackmaster set of this size with this much stuff going on for $25. You would definitely you'd get something like the basic starter sets, which have 1 engine and 1 loop. You wouldn't get points and switches and some buildings and an action feature and a carriage for that much money. But for the retail price this was going for, $50 in Australia, absolutely no way. There is definitely not $50 worth of value here, and I think that this is something which is not of the merchandise lines I would think needs to come to Australia or anywhere else. I would much prefer to get some of the, other Japanese merchandise like Thomas Wind-Ups to come rather than this. But that said, I'm glad to pick it up and it's something cool to have in my collection. So now I want to hear your thoughts. What are your thoughts on this collectible railway? Has this video made you more interested in it, or has it made you totally not interested in it? Particularly, I'd like to know your thoughts on it versus, Trackmaster and Tomy, because it is kind of weird, right? You've got blue track, like, Tomy track, but it's also very similar to Trackmaster 2 track. So I'd like to hear your thoughts on that. And also, if you've seen these anywhere or bought them, I'd love to know, particularly if you're not from places where this is sold normally. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed so far 2018. I do have some more new cool stuff to review, Thomas, and a couple of little interesting bits and pieces I've picked up along the way as well, which is exciting. So, what are you waiting for? Do all this cool stuff you do on YouTube, like, subscribe, blah, 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 you know what to do. That's all we've got time for. Thanks for watching. This is XtremeTrainz.